Hi, Scott Orlin with CINEMA-Magazin, Sundance 2019. A few years ago, you might remember a movie called Nightcrawler, directed by Dan Gilroy, starring Renee Russo and this gentleman right here, Jake Gyllenhaal. They're back, but in a new movie called Velvet Buzzsaw. Talk a little bit about the camaraderie of a creative team that you want to kind of come back and work together again.
Well, I mean, Nightcrawler was a pretty special experience. And I mean, Dan is a mind that is unmatched, he's like a total original. So there's also this sense, like when we were making Nightcrawler, I remember us talking and thinking, like, what could we do next? Like, is there something we could do next? And Dan insists on doing almost everything original, it has to be his. And I didn't think that would ever happen. And then he called me and he said, I think I've written something for you. And then I waited like 6 months and then he sent it to me. I mean, the camaraderie of working together again, the second time has its advantages and its pitfalls, I think. I think Nightcrawler was such a sort of creative success for us that I think we sort of said yes on this to each other in different ways that we probably would have challenged each other more had we not had sort of like, the positive response to Nightcrawler. But at the same time, I think the intimacy between us and my trust in those moments when he would say, just take the risk and jump, and I have this idea, or I would share my idea with him and he would trust, I think that was invaluable. And with Renee, it's odd. We had this scene at the table. We had a table scene. And we're sitting there talking to each other, and I just thought, we've filmed this scene before. But the dynamic was different, and the relationship is so different. It was like when I worked with Riz Ahmed again, and he was the one in control. Whereas when we worked on Nightcrawler, I was the one in total control. It was very interesting social dynamics.
But it's fascinating too, because this is coming out via Netflix, and there's something about, and I've watched a myriad of characters you've created over the years, but the Netflix characters that you create are a little broad, off the wall. How intriguing is that for you? He plays an art critic in this movie, and wait to see it. It's not the typical Jake Gyllenhaal you see. Where did you find his foundation?
Does he have a foundation? I mean, I guess that's what you mean, is it? I think, well, weirdly, Netflix really gives you creative freedom, as everyone talks about, which I really think is true. They may give me too much creative freedom, in that just like there's a real sense of discovery, and I sort of, particularly with Ocho, like way out there. With this, the world is so absurd. I mean, those were two pretty absurd worlds, and I considered the part in Ocho to be a way of not grounding it, but a way of sort of defining how absurd it was. And I feel the same about Morph. But I think he's also really struggling with who he is, his identity, Like, I think what is masculinity, what is his sexual identity? He's gay at the beginning of the movie, and he falls for a woman, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm straight, And I think, and then he's also sort of criticizing and at the same time in love with these artists, and then trying to find his moral center, so.
What is your real relationship to the art world? Could you be critical enough if you went and saw some art exhibit and and break it down?
Weirdly, I find like life sculpture very interesting. Like I find, I like design is very interesting to me. I like things that are functional. Somehow the idea of form and function to me matches up in a different way than just pure expression that's on a wall. I think I can only say what I think moves me or terrifies me or, gives me a thought that's new.
How do you feel when critics react to your art?
I mean, weirdly, I can take it as an individual. I think given the fact that I've been able to do this job for a long time, it's mixed and filled with a lot of different people's opinions. And so I'm grateful enough that I haven't lost, in fact, I've gained more of a sense of myself through the process. They can kind of attack me individually, but when they kind of get the whole thing, the whole movie piece that you're in, and you realize how much work has been done by so many people, that is hard if it's negative. And it is also sort of absurd when it's positive. And the best line I've heard from somebody about this whole thing about critics and critiques, and Mark Ruffalo said to me once, he said, whether they're right, I said, whether it's good or it's bad, they're always wrong. And I think that is a very, very helpful thing, because truly, the experience you have as an actor is on set. That's all you have, and your experience with the filmmaker you're working with, be it when you're on stage, is the same thing. The result is really not yours. And if you misunderstand that, get an ego because you think you're so great because something's been lauded as amazing, or feel like you're devastated because everyone said that it's horrible, or anywhere in between. I think that can become very confusing.
I was about to praise you, but now I won't, because I know it could be
Don't,
awkward.
because it's wrong.
Well, let's praise something else. Sundance. As an artist,
Yeah.
what does this festival represent to you?
I don't know. It's a mix now of a lot of things. The essence of what it was when I think Redford first began it, and when I was young enough to bring like a movie like Donnie Darko here, when there was that different world. I mean, there was always been a sense of commercialism here. And there was always there's always swag and stuff like that. But what it means to me, I think, when I look at like a first-time filmmaker or a young filmmaker or somebody who's finally made something great but wouldn't necessarily have the platform anywhere else, this is a true platform. It is resounding and it is still alive. And in these world of huge movies that are being made, there's really still a place for an intimate story and the power of spectacle, the spectacle of human behavior. That's my opinion of Sundance. I think it's great. I think it's a great place.
Thank you for giving me my platform.
Yeah.
It's always such a pleasure to be involved with
Thanks,
Buzzsaw.
Scott.
This is Scott Orlin. Until next time. I told you your arm.